What's going on YouTube? This is 3Z Inferno. So today we're going to be talking about the matchup versus 6 Sams. I know you guys have been waiting for this a lot. So against 6 Samurais, if they don't OTK you, you usually have an big advantage. Because Samurais, one of the hardest decks they can deal with are decks that mainly focus on monster effects. Because Shien can't negate monster effects, and the only thing they have are warnings and maybe one Monogama. So monster effects are really important when you play 6 Samurai. So what do you do against 6 Samurai? So game 1, you wouldn't really know you're playing 6 Samurais unless you scouted them or something like that. So in all honesty, I wouldn't set Book of Moon or MST normally, just because I wouldn't do it first turn. But if you actually knew you would, you're playing Samurai, you're more likely to set MST than you are Book of Moon. Why is that? Well, Book of Moon allows them a Shien, that's true. But if you go Undyne for Treeborn into your graveyard, and you have a Book of Moon and they don't summon anything, then you're at a loss. But they're 99%, 95%, I'm just making a random number here, but I'm very likely that they're going to set a back row. So you have a Space Typhoon for it. Because they can't OTK you if they go Shien, but they can OTK you if they have a Gateway, or, yeah, a Gateway. So Space Typhoon is way more important to set. And even if they draw a bad hand, you might not get to use your Book of Moon. If they draw a bad hand, you're most likely 95% going to get to use a Space Typhoon because they're still going to set back rows. So Space Typhoon is better to set in the matchup against Samurais than Book of Moon, to still allow your Trueborn Frog to come back. Now, Tragodia and Gores are especially important in this matchup because they stop them from OTKing, and so do 2-effect Veilers. Your Veilers to stop their Kageki. Now, that's one of the reasons why I sort of like the Samurai build with Elder and Asceticism, because that gets around the Veiler. So I actually do really like that that build. So Veiler doesn't stop that, but it does stop Kageki. So yeah. So what do you do against the Samurai matchup? If you know you're playing the Samurais, remember, Space Typhoon is better to set than a Book of Moon, because Space Typhoon is more live than a Book of Moon. I mean, sure, they usually have a lot of cards anyway that they can that you can book, but Space Typhoon is like always live. So if you open first turn, let's see what kind of hand we have. Alright, so it's okay, not bad. So we start off with Undyne. Pitch Treeborn to your graveyard and add Controller to your hand. Okay, now here's the question: if you know you're playing Samurai, will you set the Space Typhoon? Now look at your hand. Do you have a Tragodia in hand? No. Do you have a Gores in hand? No. Do you have a Veiler in hand? No. So high chances are that if they have an OTK hand, you'll need the Space Typhoon to break it up, break up their Gateway, or even Dojo. United isn't as bad, but if all they activate is United and they summon 2 monsters, then you can space it. But if they summon Gateway and everything else, then space the Gateway first. Gateway is first to space, then Dojo, and then United, because that prevents them from OTKing. Gateway prevents them from OTKing. And so, let's say they draw a bad hand. They end up going to set something. You Space Typhoon, draw, and now you're live. Oh, you can summon the Treeborn Frog, or just go for Lone Fire. Do whatever you want. I would just summon Fishboard, and then formula, draw a card, and then you're set up. Okay, that's one example. But if you don't know you're playing Samurai, it's really hard because you wouldn't normally set that Space Typhoon. I would never set the Space Typhoon, because if they're playing like a plant deck, something that doesn't really set back rows, or a Frog Monarch, that Space Typhoon you will never get rid of that Space Typhoon against Frog Monarchs. So it's just a hard thing to do. I mean, if you really know that you're playing Samurais. I'll open with this kind of hand, which isn't the best, but we will play with it anyway. It's good because Treeborn into Controller. Now Allure, that's why I love Allure, because when you Undyne first turn, you always have something to Allure away. Activate Allure Darkness. Draw 1, draw 2. Ooh, not that good. Alright. Well, anyway. It's not that good a hand. But Alert. That's why Alert is so good in this deck. But you see what I'm talking about. When you try and set up, it's because you're you put your cards in your graveyard, and then you have to try and prevent an OTK from Samurai, because that's the only thing you're scared of. When let's say that you go second, it's not that bad. You could, if you were running other decks, it would be a lot worse if you were going second. In this deck, it's not that bad. The guy, I'll tell you 2 examples. Oh, just one. One was late game. This one, he had a Shien and a Grandmaster. Shien and Grandmaster with a Gateway and a Monogama. And I go draw. Activate 1 for 1? Is that okay? He's like, that's fine. Discarding Malicious, and he said negate. I'm like, alright. Then I activate Space Typhoon on his Gateway. Then I remove Malicious from my graveyard, and then summon Gen X Controller, and make a Locomotion, and steal a Shien. And then attack, and then he loses, because he can't do anything. So, because, see, Samurai decks really hate monster effects, so use your monster effects wisely, and also just bait out the Shien. So, I mean, if you activate Book of Moon, they have to negate it, and then you're free to use whatever else, like Monster Reborn, or Enemy Controller, or whatever else. MSTs, Giant Trinade. Okay, so siding is Samurai. What do I have in my side deck that will stop them? 2 Puppet Plants. I had at 3, but right now I've changed out 2 Puppet Plants for a max, 1 Puppet Plant for a max C. So 2 Puppet Plants, you know what they do. They steal the warriors, and then you can summon them, bounce them back with Birdman, get rid of them, sack them with Malicious, something. Max C. If they're trying to go off, you can pitch this, and either you can stop them from going off, or you'll draw a ton of cards. So let's just say you draw, let's say they do Elder, that's 1 card. Aestheticism, that's 2 cards. Then Shien is 3 cards. If they stop there, 3 cards. Let's say you open with a hand of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, and then you draw 3. So you're fully prepared to take on that Samurai. So Max C is really good, and it helps you draw your Veilers, your Trag, your Gores, etc. Then you run your, oh, that's not the right card. Malevolent Catastrophe. Malevolent Catastrophe, because they have so many back rows and things like that. But this isn't that good a card against them. Not always a good card, because if they have a Shien, that's not the best. So the card I prefer right now against Samurais is Fairy Wind. I've been talking about this card a lot. Fairy Wind is just really good because it destroys all their back rows, their spells and traps, like Robber of Warlords, Dojo, Gateway, United. One time, one of my friends were playtesting. He had a Fiendish Chain face up. Then he also had a Robber of Warlords, Dimensional Fissure, a Dojo, and a United. And he had 1 card in hand, and he summoned it. That Fairy Wind blew all his back rows, and he lost. That was it. So, Fairy Wind's amazing. And Torrential Tribute, of course, to stop them from OTKing you. Okay. So any questions, just let me know. Thanks, guys. 3Z Inferno signing out.